My doorbell camera sent a notification before my brain even woke up, and when I tapped it, I saw a deputy on my porch holding papers with my name on them, and I stayed silent as something inside me cracked because one question wouldn't leave my head. How do you get evicted from a house you own? My name is Rhiannon Hale. I am 31, and I work as a payroll specialist for a construction company, which means my whole life is receipts, timestamps, and people begging me to just fix it after they've already lied. The knock came again, deep and practiced, the kind that doesn't ask. A man's voice followed, calm and official. "Sheriff's office. Ma'am, open the door." I didn't rush. I didn't freeze. I moved like I was walking through a meeting where everyone wanted to see me cry. Sweatshirt, socks, phone in my palm. My thumb hovered over record because my gut was already screaming that today was going to be about proof. I turned the porch light on and looked through the peephole. Tan uniform, black vest, clipboard, a patrol car at the curb with the lights off, like even authority had manners before sunrise. And then I saw them, across the street, half hidden by the neighbor's bare winter tree. My mother and my stepdad. Not standing together like a couple worried about me, standing like spectators who showed up early to get good seats. My mother's arms were folded. My stepdad's hands were in his pockets. Their faces didn't say surprise. They said satisfaction. I opened the door with the chain still on. "Yes." "Ma'am," the deputy said, polite but firm, "are you Rhiannon Hale?" "Yes." He glanced at the papers. "I'm Deputy Callahan Morris. I'm here regarding a writ of possession. This is an eviction order." Eviction. The word hit my chest like a shove, like someone had reached into my ribs and decided they owned the space there. "This is my house," I said, and I hated how steady my voice sounded, like I was already practiced at being disbelieved. "There has to be a mistake." Deputy Morris didn't look annoyed. He looked tired in the way tired people look when they hate what they're about to do. "Ma'am, I'm not here to debate ownership. I'm here to execute a court order." Behind him, my mother called out, loud enough to carry. "We tried to handle this privately." My stepdad added, flat as stone, "Pack your things. We're not doing this all day." Deputy Morris's eyes flicked toward them for half a second, then back to me. "Do you have somewhere you can go?" he asked, like he was reading from the same script he'd used 100 times. "I'm not going anywhere," I said, "until I see what this is." He angled the top page toward the crack in the door. Court seal, case number. My name printed cleanly, like I was a stranger renting someone else's life. My mouth went dry, not from fear, from disbelief so sharp it felt like thirst. "Who filed this?" I asked. He hesitated, then read it. "Plaintiffs are Marin Hale and Grant Hale." My mother's chin lifted, as if hearing her name out loud was a trophy. Something in me went cold and still, the way a lake goes still right before it freezes over. If my mother filed it, this wasn't an accident. This was a plan. "When was this filed?" I asked. He checked. "Judgment entered last week." Last week. I had been here last week. I had made soup. I had paid my electric bill. I had slept in that bed. "Where was I served?" I asked. His thumb ran down the page. "Service address listed as Juniper Lane." I stared at him. "That's not my address." Juniper Lane was the duplex my mother rented years ago, the one with the sagging porch rail and the mailbox that never closed. An address I hadn't used since I was 19 and counting down the days until I could leave and breathe. Deputy Morris's jaw tightened. "It's what's on the return of service." "Can you show me the return?" I asked. He flipped a page, then held it up. "Substitute service, accepted by adult female occupant." My stomach turned, slow and sour. Across the street, my mother called again, softer now, like she was performing kindness for the deputy. "She's been impossible lately. We had no choice." No choice. As if lying to a court was an act of love. I didn't yell. I didn't plead. I didn't give them the scene they wanted so they could point and say, "See, this is why we had to do it." I did the only thing that mattered. I built a record. "Hold that still for a second," I said to Deputy Morris, and I took clear photos of every page. Case number, service address, return of service, my mother's name as plaintiff, the judge's signature. Then I shut the door gently and slid the deadbolt into place like the sound could protect me. It couldn't, but proof could. I grabbed the small fireproof pouch from my kitchen drawer. Inside were the boring things you never think about until someone decides to rewrite your life. The recorded deed in my name, my grandfather's estate distribution letter, property tax statements, homeowner's insurance. My grandfather, the only person in my family who ever said, "I believe you," without making me earn it. He left me this house because he knew what my mother was like when she wanted something. She didn't take it loudly. She took it neatly, with paperwork, with smiles, with stories that made her look reasonable. I called the courthouse the second my phone found signal. Civil Division. A clerk answered, brisk and tired. "I have a writ of possession for an eviction," I said. "I was never served. I need to file an emergency stay." A pause, keyboard clicks. "Case number." I read it. More clicking. Then her voice changed, just slightly, like the system had recognized a bad smell. "This was filed by Marin Hale and Grant Hale. Default judgment entered last week." "I was never served," I repeated. "They used Juniper Lane, that is not my address." Silence, then more typing. "The return says substitute service accepted by adult female occupant." "That would be the plaintiff," I said quietly. Another pause, longer now. "You need to come in as soon as we open," she said. "Bring identification and proof of residence. Bring proof of ownership." "I have it," I said. "Do not delay," she added, and the way she said it wasn't kind, it was warning. I ended the call and opened my camera again, recording as I walked back to the front door. Through the glass, I could still see my mother across the street, still as a statue, like she'd already pictured me dragging boxes out crying. I cracked the door with the chain on. "I'm going to the courthouse," I told Deputy Morris. "I'm filing an emergency stay." He nodded once. "That's what you need to do." My mother called out, sweet as poison. "File whatever you want, it's already done." Deputy Morris didn't look at her. He looked at me. "Ma'am, I can't give legal advice," he said, lowering his voice. "But if you get a signed stay order today, call our civil unit immediately." He slid a small card toward the gap in the door with a number written on it. My stepdad's voice jumped in, cold and controlled. "Don't make this ugly." I looked straight at him across the street. "You made it ugly when you forged the address," I said, quiet enough that only they would hear. My mother's smile twitched, just for a second like a mask slipping. I left through the back door so I wouldn't have to walk past them like they own the sidewalk, and I drove toward the courthouse with my hands steady on the wheel and my stomach in knots. At a red light, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. One sentence. "Stop fighting, or we will make sure you lose everything else too." My throat went tight, but my face didn't change, because a threat wasn't just fear. A threat was proof that they were scared. Quick real-life pause. Some nights I'm editing and I want to quit, but then I see your comments and I keep going. Like, subscribe and tell me your city and state or your country. All right, now let me take you back. I didn't reply to the text. I screenshotted it, saved it, and named the file with the case number in my notes app, because my whole job is knowing that people who lie always leave a trail. And as the courthouse came into view, I realized the truth that made my hands grip the steering wheel a little tighter. My mother didn't bring a deputy to my door because she was confident. She brought a deputy to my door because she believed I would panic, and panic would make me careless. She was about to learn what my grandfather taught me. Silence isn't weakness. Silence is how you hear the trap click shut. The courthouse parking lot was still damp from overnight fog, and my tires made that soft hiss against the asphalt as I pulled into a spot near the back. I sat for a second with my hands on the steering wheel, not praying, not spiraling, just listening to my own breathing like it was a metronome. In through the revolving doors, cold air, fluorescent lights, The smell of disinfectant that always reminds me of places where people pretend they are being fair. At the security checkpoint, a guard with tired eyes waved me forward. I placed my keys, my phone, and my fireproof pouch in a gray tray. My papers went last, the deputies writ on top. The guard saw the seal and his posture changed just a little. "What's going on?" he asked, not nosy, just human. "Eviction being executed today," I said. He blinked once, then nodded like he understood the kind of emergency that doesn't look dramatic until it destroys you. "Go ahead," he said, and he pushed my tray through faster than everyone else. Upstairs, the civil division windows were already gathering people. A woman with a toddler on her hip. A man in a work jacket holding a folder so tight his knuckles were pale. A couple whispering like they were afraid the building could hear. I took a number and stared at it until my turn came up, because staring at something simple is sometimes the only way to keep your mind from running into a wall. When the clerk called me, I stepped to the counter. He was middle-aged, hair thinning, badge clipped to his collar. His name tag read Rowan, and his eyes looked like they'd seen too many people realize too late that rules don't care about feelings. "I need an emergency stay," I said, sliding my ID and the writ photos forward. "I was never served. The service address is wrong." Rowan typed the case number with quick, practiced fingers. His face tightened almost immediately. "You're listed as living on Juniper Lane," he said. "I don't," I replied. "That's my mother's old address. She's the plaintiff." He clicked again, pulled up a scan document, and turned his monitor slightly so I could see. A proof of service form. A neat printed name under a messy signature. Maren Hale. My mother hadn't even bothered to hide it. "She signed for it," I said quietly. Rowan's eyebrows rose just a fraction. "The plaintiff accepted service on behalf of the defendant," he murmured, like he was saying the words out loud to make sure they were real. Then he looked at me again. "Do you have proof of your current address?" I slid a utility bill forward, then another. My name, my actual street, dates that matched the life I'd been living while they tried to erase it. Rowan stared at the documents, then tapped his screen again. "They filed this as unlawful detainer," he said. "Landlord versus tenant." My jaw tightened. "I'm not a tenant." He clicked to another exhibit, and the air in my chest went thin. A one-page lease agreement appeared on the screen. My name typed at the top. My mother and stepdad's names typed under landlord. A signature at the bottom that was supposed to be mine. It looked wrong in the way you know your own face looks wrong in a distorted mirror. They didn't even forge me well. They forged a version of me they thought a judge would accept. "That isn't my signature," I said. Rowan's mouth pressed into a line. He didn't say, "I believe you." Clerks don't get to say that. Instead, he said, "If you want a judge to see this today, you need to file an emergency motion now." He slid a packet under the glass, still warm from the printer, stapled thick like a lifeline. I opened it right there at the counter, scanning headings with a focus that felt almost detached. Motion to stay enforcement. Motion to vacate default. Request for emergency hearing. "What judge?" I asked. Rowan glanced at the docket. "Judge Sienna Hart," he said. "Department 14. The way he said it made it feel like a place. People went to get their lives weighed and measured. "I need to be heard this morning," I said. "The deputy told me he has to clear my house by noon." Rowan's eyes flicked up to meet mine. For a second, the tiredness in his face sharpened into something else. Attention, not pity, recognition of something rotten. He reached for the proof of service form, printed it, and slid it under the glass with a yellow highlighter. "Highlight that line," he said low. "The part where the plaintiff signed. It matters." Then I pulled out my deed copy and my grandfather's distribution letter, laying them on the counter like chess pieces. Rowan looked down, blinked, and for the first time his expression actually changed. "This deed is recorded to you," he said. "Yes," I replied. "My grandfather left me the house." Rowan stared at the screen again, clicking faster now, and his shoulders went slightly rigid. "They're claiming they own it," he said. "That's why they filed as landlords. They don't, I said, and my voice stayed calm even though the anger in my stomach felt hot and heavy. They are using the court to do what they can't do honestly. Rowan handed me a hearing request slip. Fill everything out, he said. Be specific, wrong address, improper service, forged lease, recorded deed in your name. I took the packet and walked to a bench in the hallway, the wood cold through my sweatshirt. My hands didn't shake. I refused to let them. I wrote slowly, cleanly, like I was signing payroll checks that couldn't afford mistakes. And then came the first twist that made my throat close. When I returned to the window to submit the forms, Rowan had pulled up something new. He didn't look at me right away. He looked at his screen like he wished he could unsee what he was seeing. Ms. Hale, he said quietly. I leaned in. What? There's another exhibit, he said, attached by the plaintiffs. I felt the cold return, sliding through me like a draft. What exhibit? Rowan's voice dropped even lower. A recorded deed, he said, a deed that claims the property was transferred to them. For a second, the hallway noise disappeared. No footsteps, no murmurs, just the sound of my own pulse trying to decide whether to panic. I never signed anything, I said. Rowan didn't argue. He just nodded toward the screen, toward a scanned image with a notary block at the bottom and a date that made my stomach twist. If that deed is fraudulent, he said, this is bigger than an eviction. You need that stay, and you need the judge to see this. I swallowed once, kept my face smooth, and took my stamped packet back from him. Then I walked toward Department 14. The courtroom doors were open, and the room inside looked smaller than I expected, like a place built to make you feel alone even when it's full. A few attorneys sat scattered with laptops. A bailiff stood near the front, arms folded, expression blank. And then I saw them. My mother and stepdad were already seated in the front row with an attorney beside them. He had silver hair and a calm posture, the kind of man who looks like he charges money for reassurance. My mother wore a soft cardigan, her face arranged into concern like a costume. My stepdad stared straight ahead like he was already entitled to the outcome. My mother noticed me and gave a small, sad smile, the exact smile she used when she wanted outsiders to think she was the victim of my cruelty. I didn't smile back. I didn't glare. I did something that felt like swallowing glass. I sat down behind them, alone, and opened my folder. The bailiff called the case, and my legs carried me forward like they belonged to someone who wasn't scared. Judge Sienna Hart took the bench and looked down at the file with a frown that told me she'd already found the part that didn't fit. We have an emergency motion to stay enforcement of a writ of possession, she said. Her voice was calm, but there was steel underneath it. Defendant is present. Plaintiffs are present with counsel. The silver-haired attorney stood. Your Honor, Alaric Beckett for the plaintiffs. Judge Hart nodded once, then looked at me. Ms. Hale, you're representing yourself today. Yes, Your Honor. And you understand the writ authorizes same-day possession. Yes, I said, by noon. Judge Hart's gaze didn't soften. Judges don't survive by softening. Tell me why I should issue a stay. I took a breath and set my packet on the table. Because I was never properly served, I said. The proof of service shows substitute service accepted at an address I do not live at, and the adult female occupant who accepted service is the plaintiff. Judge Hart's eyes narrowed. The plaintiff accepted service on behalf of the defendant. Yes, I said, and slid forward the highlighted form. Mr. Beckett's expression stayed smooth. Your Honor, substitute service is permitted under statute. The plaintiff served at the defendant's last known address. Judge Hart lifted her hand without looking at him. Do not recite statute. Answer the question. Her eyes stayed on the proof of service. Did your client sign as the adult female occupant? Mr. Beckett hesitated, just long enough for me to feel it like a crack. Yes, he said carefully. Mrs. Hale accepted service. Judge Hart looked at my mother. Why did you accept service for the defendant at an address that is not her residence? My mother's lips trembled into practiced sorrow. Your Honor, we didn't know where else to find her. She's been unstable. She stopped answering. There it was, the word that always comes out when someone wants the court to stop looking too closely. Judge Hart didn't blink. That's not an answer, she said. Either you knew where she lived or you didn't. My stepdad leaned forward. We were trying to protect the property, he said. Protect it from whom? Judge Hart asked. He didn't answer. Judge Hart turned back to me. Do you have proof of your current address? I slid my bills forward. My ID, clean, ordinary facts. Judge Hart scanned them, then looked at the lease exhibit. And you're also claiming the lease is forged. Yes, I said. I am not a tenant, I own the home. My grandfather's deed is recorded in my name. I slid the deed copy forward. Judge Hart's eyes moved over it, and for the first time my mother shifted in her seat. Then Judge Hart lifted a separate page from the file, and my stomach dropped because I knew what she was holding before she even spoke. Exhibit attached by the plaintiffs, she said evenly. A deed. She looked straight at me. Ms. Hale, did you sign a deed transferring this property to your mother and stepfather? My voice didn't shake. No, Your Honor. Mr. Beckett stepped in, smooth as oil. Your Honor, it is a recorded deed with notarization. Judge Hart's gaze snapped to him. I did not ask you. Then she looked back at me, and her tone shifted into something sharper. You are alleging fraud. Yes, I said. Judge Hart leaned back, eyes narrowing at the notary block. For one suspended moment, the whole courtroom felt like it was holding its breath. And then she asked the question that made my mother's face finally lose its softness. Ms. Hale, Judge Hart said, tapping the page once, do you know this notary? I stared at the name on the stamp, and the answer rose up from somewhere deep and ugly, like an old memory trying to warn me. Because I did know it. And I suddenly understood exactly how they thought they could get away with all of this. The name on the notary stamp was Holland Pierce, my mother's best friend. The woman who hosted every holiday dinner, who hugged me at graduations, who called me sweet girl whenever she needed a favor. The same woman who worked at a small title office and bragged about knowing how the system really works. For a moment, the room felt smaller, not because I was scared, because the entire shape of the plan became clear at once. Judge Hart noticed my reaction. You recognize the notary? She asked. Yes, I said. She is my mother's close friend. My mother inhaled sharply. Mr. Beckett shifted beside her, and the smooth confidence in his face cracked just a little. Judge Hart looked at him. Counsel, is the notary present in the courtroom today? Mr. Beckett hesitated. No, Your Honor. Then she will be tomorrow, Judge Hart replied, and she will bring her notary journal. The temperature in the room seemed to change. My stepdad went very still. My mother's fingers tightened around her purse like she was squeezing it for air. Judge Hart turned back to me. Ms. Hale, you also claim you were at work on the day this deed was supposedly signed. Yes, I answered, all day. Can you prove it? I can, I said, and I placed the badge access logs on the table. Entry times, exit times, internal door scans. A simple timeline that showed me inside a secured building from morning until evening without a single gap. Judge Hart studied the pages carefully. Then she looked at the notary block again. Counsel, she said to Mr. Beckett, your clients allege this deed was signed at noon. Yes, Your Honor. Judge Hart lifted my work logs. At noon, Ms. Hale was physically inside a building across town with electronic access records to prove it. Mr. Beckett opened his mouth, then closed it again. Judge Hart did not raise her voice. She didn't need to. This court is issuing an immediate stay of the writ of possession, she said, effective right now. Relief didn't explode inside me. It arrived quietly, like a door finally closing on a storm. Judge Hart continued. The default judgment is vacated. The unlawful detainer is dismissed for improper service, and the court is referring the deed to the district attorney for investigation of possible fraud. My mother made a small sound, half gasp, half protest. Judge Hart held up a hand. You do not get to speak, she said. Then she looked directly at me. Ms. Hale, record a certified copy of this order with the county recorder today. And until this matter is resolved, your parents are to have no further contact with you regarding the property." "Yes, Your Honor," I replied. The gavel came down, and with that small sound, the whole house of lies collapsed. Outside the courtroom, I walked past my parents without looking at them. Mr. Beckett hurried them toward the elevator, whispering in tight, angry tones. Holland Pierce was nowhere in sight, but she would be soon enough. My phone buzzed before I even reached the stairs. "Deputy Morris." "I got the stay," I said as soon as I answered. "Good," he replied, genuine relief in his voice. "Send me a photo of the signed order." I did, right there in the hallway, and he confirmed that enforcement was suspended. No more early morning knocks. No more strangers at my door pretending my home belonged to someone else. I went straight to the recorder's office and filed the judge's order. The clerk stamped it with heavy, satisfying authority, and the fraud alert on my property record was updated the same day. By afternoon, the quiet had returned to my street. No patrol car, no parents waiting across the road like vultures. But the story didn't end there. 2 weeks later, Holland Pierce lost her notary commission after her journal revealed what we already knew. The identification number she claimed to have verified was not mine. The signature in her book did not match anything I had ever written. The district attorney opened an investigation. My mother tried to call me once. I let it ring. She sent a long message about misunderstandings and stress and family sticking together. I printed it, saved it with the rest of the documents, and never replied. Silence had protected me better than any argument ever could. Over the next month, I replaced the front door locks, installed a small camera above the porch, and placed certified copies of every order into a new fireproof box. Not because I lived in fear, but because I understood something I never wanted to learn. Institutions can be used as weapons, but they can also be used as shields. My parents never apologized. People like them rarely do. Apologies require admitting that control is not the same as love. The title to my home was corrected. The false deed was formally voided. The case against me vanished from the court record like it had never existed. And one quiet evening, I sat on my porch with a cup of tea, watching the sun settle behind the trees my grandfather planted years ago. He left me more than a house. He left me the lesson he lived by. Paper beats noise, truth beats volume, and calm beats cruelty every single time. I didn't expose my parents. I didn't scream. I didn't fight in public. I simply showed the right people the right proof. That was my revenge. Clean, legal, unshakable. And when the final letter from the county arrived confirming the title was secure again, I placed it gently into the box with the rest and closed the lid. The matter was finished. My home was mine. Completely, legally, forever.